Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I realize I haven't got much time. I've got about, I think I was told 8 minutes, so this might be a bit of a swift run through. But yeah, my name's Newell. I've been at Elsevier for a couple of years. I joined Elsevier through the acquisition of Interfolio, and since then I've been working on the broader concept of societal impact and how we can help universities and not only understand it, and measure it, but also to articulate it. So I'm going to be joined here by two of our development partners. We've got Paul Daniels from Athabasca University, and we've got Diego Lozano from the University of Monterrey in Mexico. And they've both been trying out this new initiative that we've been working on, which we call Impact AI. And it's an attempt to, I suppose, semi-automate and scale the challenge of helping universities do exactly that, to find the where is the impact, and then to talk about it in relatable terms. So I'd like to start by posing this question. And really, it's that word story that I want to focus on. And I like that word story because really, since the dawn of time, as a fundamental human tenet, whether we're sitting around a campfire in ancient times or attending TED Talks, we love a compelling narrative. We love a good story. And it was that context that where I started to think about how we as Elsevier could bring that concept to our customers. And in terms of those sort of three components you need, you definitely need data. And of course, there's an awful lot of highly robust, reliable, trustworthy data that we can access here. You need to be relatable. You need to tell that story in a way that connects with human beings. Often, if you look at research papers, they're incredibly clever, but you do need your PhD in that subject sometimes to understand what they're talking about. And so you need to be able to communicate that beyond the institution in a way that people resonate with. And then thirdly, of course, you need a good storyteller. And that's something that, if you think about the data we have available to us, the contributory data in Pure, the vast Scopus data set, the activity data in Plum and through licensing with Overton, and other data sets as well that the universities might have, with a relatable framework, and I will talk about this in detail in a little bit, but essentially to be able to talk about the research through the lens of characteristics that resonate with human beings. And then a good storyteller. And generative AI has proved time and again that it actually can spin a good yarn. The challenges, as Olivier pointed out before lunch, are that you need to set clear parameters for it. But let me tell you about this what you might call a language framework. You'll see there's 7 characteristics there in a pretty little diagram. We call this the widget. And essentially, if you read impact case studies, impact reports, researcher bios, what you tend to find is that the language used in those articles is really very, very similar, regardless of the framework the organization uses, regardless of the type of research that people do, regardless of whether it's in Japan, Australia, Hong Kong, the UK, America, whether it's large or small, people talk about these things. They talk about the number of people that were affected. They talk about the tangible outcomes. They talk about how novel the collaborations, the engagement. And so if you talk about the research through these terms, you find there's a connection with people all over the world. And what we've tried to do here is say, let's look at the data that's available to us, the data that we've got either through institutional repositories or through platforms like Scopus and Plum, in order to provide evidence to support these characteristics. And can I in some way measure them? And what we're showing here is a sort of a radar diagram for these different characteristics. So each of these characteristics is underpinned by a number of different metrics. And at the moment, we're choosing those metrics. But I think it's quite an interesting proposition to suggest that each customer might have their own metrics they might want to put forward. You get just an at-a-glance impression of what's going on here in terms of activity. And you might then want to ask some questions. You might want to say, well, why is engagement low relative to, say, collaboration? What is happening there, right? So it invites curiosity. And I personally like it because it's colorful and cute, and I think it's engaging, and people tend to like that sort of thing. But what the widget does is it provides us a way in. The real power behind this really is the generative AI. And there's three things it's really doing. We're pulling together vast amounts of data. We're putting together quantitative and qualitative data into a process whereby we're able to then generate a set of narratives. Now, those narratives will be produced through the lens of all those characteristics, but can be then used to generate useful, tangible outputs, such as impact reports or researcher bios. Maybe it's a blog for the university website, right? And remembering that a lot of this data is often in disparate sources, not complete, certainly not connected via unique IDs, which would be the ideal. And so what the AI is able to do is pull all this together, and it does it at scale. We can generate these narratives in seconds across an entire portfolio, which is hugely powerful. And what we've done here, we've built a prototype, and that prototype was going to be tested actively in the next couple of weeks. But I've mocked up a workflow here specifically around the data in Pure. And I'm afraid it's a little hard to see, but essentially, working within Pure, you might decide to start some deep dive analysis on impact. You would fire up a screen where you can see the projects that are in Pure. It could be the individual researchers in Pure. From there, you will generate your narratives, and here's a screenshot of our prototype, where you see the widget, and you also see some narratives. And it's a little hard to see, of course, because it's really tiny. But what this screen shows, and the slides are available, the screen shows is that you get a narrative with references to all of the source publications and other research outputs. You can refine that. You can export that back and have it appear inside Pure in the impact content type. And I want to be clear, this is not related to the impact module that people have mentioned earlier today. This is a separate initiative, but it is using the impact content type. And this is, say, one of the use cases that we're exploring. We've done an awful lot of work in the last 6 to 8 months on testing this with a large number of organizations. We have 12 deep dive research partners, and 2 of them are here today to tell you their experience. Every time we work with a development partner, we learn more, and we use their feedback in order to refine the model for the next time around. And you can see there's quite a lot here. I want to just share this one piece of feedback with you. This was a UK university. We generated around 200 narratives for them across 20 different projects, and we asked them to rate them both in terms of the quality, but also the kind of the rigor, the accuracy. Does it hallucinate? Is it harmful, and so on? And you can see on the quality, we've got 74% have rated the narratives good to excellent, and in terms of rigor and quality, overwhelmingly, the number of people that thought it was good, 90, I can't quite read it, 92%. By the way, the right-hand bar in both diagrams is the don't know option, as opposed to no. With that, I know I've raced through this at 1 million miles an hour, but I'm going to hand over to Paul to tell you his experience of using it, and then Paul will hand over to Diego, and then I'll wrap up at the end.
Thanks, Sean. I'll talk a bit about some of our experience working with Sean and his team, and some of the feedback that we provided, and what the impressions we got from our researchers were. I'll start with just some quick words about the context that our feedback, our perspective was coming from. So we're Canada's open and online university, so we're digital by design. We have a lot of interest in being early adopters around technology like this, and we've had some other projects that pressed into the AI space. And being an open university, we have interest in knowledge mobilization and impact literacy and promoting and driving that forward. So we're super excited to engage with this project here. And what we did, so Sean and his team developed a number of narrative statements for our researchers and widgets, and we took a subset of those and connected with the individual researchers to get their feedback, get their sense. And the researchers we focused on came from the different faculties, different career stages, different impact literacy levels. So we tried to get a range of feedback to get insights for Sean that would be useful. And I'll highlight a couple things here quickly. The feedback had a general profile of, this is great, this is really interesting. It'd be better if there were these kinds of features, so these kinds of improvements, which I think was helpful for Sean and his team to give him that kind of wish list to work with. One of the things that this harmful hallucinates question I thought was particularly interesting. Beforehand, I worried that if it hallucinates, makes up something that isn't accurate, it's going to be harmful. And in connecting with our researchers, we actually found that there's a value in this kind of space. And what I mean by that is one or two of our researchers in particular came across new impacts that they weren't aware of, new policy impacts for their work. I was cited in policies in different countries. And so through this experience, they become aware of ways in which their work was impactful that they weren't knowledgeable about before. So it was, and that's kind of where we get this not sure, like, oh, here's this, it might have actually been a policy in Spain, and the researcher was unfamiliar about it, and so they were not sure if it was hallucinated because they weren't sure if they didn't speak Spanish effectively. So there's a risk around, is it harmful? And I think that's well managed here because it provides an opportunity for researchers to engage and learn more, that things that they weren't aware of in this space. For our researchers, the widgets that were developed looked holistically at the researcher's profile rather than at a specific project. And some of the interesting things that emerge from this is, there's the value in the holistic picture, but there's different kinds of lenses which, if the tool can provide, I think would provide a interesting frame. So, for instance, early career researchers are going to have a different impact profile or research profile to late stage researchers. And similarly, we might want to compare a researcher with themselves and their colleagues in Canada or globally. Gender, these different kinds of things, I think, provide different lenses. Researchers raise concerns around things like, is this a black box? How is the data going to be reused? I think Sean put those worries to rest after we voiced them. And this inclusion of harmful impacts is just something I'll note quickly. So there was a worry that emerged around, if a researcher's work was captured in a misinformation campaign, we think of impact as being positive, but there's cases where it might not be positive. And this is something that we flagged for Sean and his team. And I think with these kinds of worries, he did well to help steer things in a positive direction to navigate them. So it was a positive experience overall, and super interesting results. And as I said earlier, the theme of the feedback we got from the researchers was that this is valuable. It was especially valuable for the researchers who were new to the impact literacy space, who didn't know how to start writing a narrative statement. That's where the true value kind of emerged. I'll pass it over to Diego.
So we were interested since the last year when we heard that Sean was working with AI to generate narratives from the data we have in Pure. So in addition, we challenged Sean's team and asked if it was possible to develop, in addition to the profile widget, profile narratives and preg narratives, because our need as a central office, we get some accreditations regularly, and we need to create these narratives. So we read the project and make them. So, for instance, how many projects in social impact do you have in a specific period of time in a specific school or faculty? So what we want to do is to create or to save time, basically, in writing and editing, and to have consistency in the narratives. Because if we ask the researchers to make their own narratives, perhaps they would, but there is no consistency. And I think the most important is the scalability. So eventually we will be able to have all the narratives from the researchers, the schools, the narrative from the school, from the department, or the project specific, the idea is we can choose what we need. And also the language flexibility. Of course, all information is in Spanish and English, so the AI help us with this. With the profile widget, we got this kind of results, and we have some feedback to Sean and his team, and some information is currently missing, but they are adding some information, like the patents. And one thing that we saw is that currently weights equally if you are first author, co-author, or the corresponding author. So it takes all the information from the researcher. And perhaps we have to fine-tune there, but I think it's something easy. It's limited to Scopus data, and certain disciplines have data outside Scopus. So ideally, if we can read all the information in pure, for instance, in the arts and humanities and law, we have tons of information that not necessarily is in Scopus. So that's the idea. Perhaps are more indicators. On the profile narrative, we got, I think it's very tiny, but what we have here is the name of the researcher, certain characteristics, and there is key research controversial societal impacts. And these narratives we share with the researchers, and they say, in general, the narrative is fine. They were happy with the narrative. So in some cases, they just change a couple of words, but it gives us a glance that we can have these narratives. If we want these narratives to have in our portal, it's easier to have the researchers just review and just make a couple of changes and approve it than write them. And then in some cases, for instance, the AI is exaggerating a little bit. For instance, in this case, says this person is a pioneer researcher or engineer, and perhaps if you were a little bit humble, just eliminate that word, and it's in the narrative it's fine. It exaggerates a little bit sometimes, but again, it's easier to modify this. This is some of the changes one of the researchers made. So it takes perhaps a couple of minutes to read it, and just deleted some words and says everything there is fine. In some cases, there are some imprecisions, but I mean, it's expected because we are having a lot of information. So, in general remarks, for us as a general office, it's excellent tool because we will have all the narratives from the projects, and then if we actually need it for accreditation or for our website, just need the research groups to review it. And what we would like is to have the ability to select which type of projects or articles want in a specific narrative. And I think that will be the next steps. And also the profile widget is helpful because it's very nice, the chart. But we think that since it's not an assessment, it looks like an assessment. So it can confuse a little bit at this point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you very much. I'm always quite encouraged when the feedback I get is, yeah, I like it, but it'd be great if it could do this other thing and other things. So that was really encouraging. So we are still in relatively early stage of development, but we say we have a prototype coming out very soon, and we're hoping to go to at least a beta in the beginning of next year. If anyone would like to learn anything more, there's this QR code here. I think it's in the app as well. Or you can go to impact.elsevier.com, and you'll get there. And fill in your details. It comes to me. And then we'll keep everyone informed. But we're very keen to hear your thoughts on this. We're very keen to have you come and try it as well. And I say we're most especially excited about the fact that we can take data from the pure system and really add that extra bit of life to it, to bring that data to life, essentially, to tell that story. Those breadcrumbs of data that happen after the research has completed, things that happen, the collaborations, the engagements, the instances of further funding, outputs such as research databases or company spin-outs, patents, policies, and so on. These help tell an incredible story. And what the AI can do is bring that all together, present it through the lens of these characteristics, and make basically everyone's life a lot easier. It's not meant to produce a final image. We're assuming that people are going to take it and edit it. But we do think it does cut out an awful lot of the heavy lifting. So with that, we'll take some questions.
Probably got time for one or maybe two questions, because I think it's an exciting topic. I could talk about this for hours, but there are other exciting things to follow.
This is so interesting. So I want to know, which data did you pull from Pure? Publications, grants? What were your data points that each of you pulled?
Of course, I need Sean to verify that, but we use publications, the narrative, the CV, also as well, and also I think it was the projects.
We took projects, we took awards.
Yep.
I think we took, Jeremy might be able to add a bit more, because he did it.
I'll just get Jeremy to answer this question.
So the way that it worked is that we would use the API to extract out whatever the subject we were targeting was. So for each university, that's different. Sometimes it's persons, sometimes it's projects that we're looking at that. But then we'll get the related content to that. So research outputs is a major driver of it. That's where a lot of the metrics come from. But we'll also look at things like press media, activities, other things that you've got in Pure. So really trying, because that is stuff that isn't captured normally in a centralized repository, and really shows the way that your research is being impactful in a broader context that is unique to what's in your Pure system.
So to follow up, do you have to use more than the information that was just in Pure, like do you have to assign that one?
No, you don't have to. It was, there's some metrics that we referenced to be able to support it, but it was using just the data that was in the Pure instance to begin with.
Okay, this is the final question.
Yep. Thanks for the presentation. That's really interesting. I could definitely see this as something being relevant for us as an institution to use, because we have all these data in Pure that we can actually apply to create these impact descriptions, which the researchers believe are incredibly hard to do. So my question is, why is this functionality not on the roadmap? I mean, this is really an excellent way to use this data and to drive change in Pure.
Thank you, Thea.
It is on the roadmap, but occasionally you see internal organizational structures leak through in presentations. So they don't think of it as being on the Pure roadmap, because we're building this as a general capability that we could use in Pure, but also other solutions at Elsevier. So that's the only reason. Yeah.
So if anyone would like to come and have a chat, I'm going to hover around the Pure desk in the entrance hall just out here, wherever it is, somewhere. And I'm more than happy to show you. If I can get onto a laptop, I can give you a quick demo. Or we can just have a chat, and I've got a million business cards I can hand out. But thank you for your attention.